Hey guys, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Dr. Kori Probst. Today we're going to talk about making super babies. And it's not with CRISPR. We're not going to talk about genetic engineering, but kind of, because what you do with your own body as a parent and your environment, that's going to be Kori's domain, has everything to do with the performance of your kids, the success of your kids, the intelligence of your kids. So what I'm talking about is a new study that was just released this week in the realm of epigenetics. And if you're not familiar with that term, epigenetics is the study or the process how what we do right now changes our DNA. It used to be, maybe 20 years ago, the prevailing theory that DNA is just passed down one generation to the next, and you get what you get. And if there's any change evolutionarily, it just takes tens or hundreds of millions of years. And instead, we found that we can change absolute DNA instantly right now and pass that right down to the next generation, our children. So Kori, here's what this study concluded. They looked at a 6-week training regimen in rats, because rats contain 94% of the same exact DNA we have.
Training as an exercise?
They actually did running.
Okay.
So they had these, one study group of rats run consistently for 6 weeks, then have offspring, and they did certain memory type tests, and they even did dissection of the brain. And so not only did the offspring mice of the active parents have higher measurable intelligence, they actually had physical changes in the hippocampus, so the ability to recall and memorize things. They had changes down to the mitochondrial level, so how even the cells in the brain process energy. So you're talking about efficiency and the capacity for intelligence, and all of this done in just one generation. And what they really looked at was the fact that males, of course, are producing sperm continuously. So you are producing changes in your own DNA, and that's what's causing the effect. And we could talk about this if we have time, but women, the ova that you are born with, you're not producing those. I mean, you're born with a certain amount in each ovary. When you run out, you go through menopause, and so you have that time frame, that window of fertility. And so really what you have is from your mother, but your physical health, what you do can improve the health of your ongoing ova in your body, because otherwise with more free radical damage, with less oxygenation and so forth, they can just degrade. So it's a unique combination of your grandmother and your mother on the maternal side, but the father, who is just, as I said, in real time producing sperm nonstop, has a little bit more of a direct impact. So I'll let you comment there before we segue into the nurture part, but that is the nature part. And to me, it's just it's mind-blowing how short of a span of time we've really been starting to understand epigenetics in the scientific community, and now seeing how much impact there is instantly at the DNA level.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, based on the previous generation's activity, lack of activity, nutrition, how well, your, grandparents for your parents and then our parents were taking care of themselves or weren't, we are going to have a propensity towards certain disease processes or
Absolutely.
not. And then the expression maybe of those is going to be dependent upon how then we take care of ourselves and our behavior.
So you're moving into other areas of study. This particular study looked at just intellectual capacity. Specifically the hippocampus, the mitochondria in the hippocampus, the way intelligence is expressed.
Okay.
But what you're saying is, yes, also disease, resistance to disease, all kinds of things. It's really endless. I just want to stay in the bounds of what I know in terms of research.
Yeah.
But absolutely, what you're saying paints a picture that really seems like common sense, right? But we've not been able to track the exact DNA links before the last couple of decades.
Okay, so going back to intelligence, what does that mean for, you're a parent, Joe. I'm interested in what you consciously and strategically do as a dad for your kids, with the understanding that, they were born with certain propensities for intelligence or not, and how you think about nurturing them in a manner that's going to increase the possibility that they mature as effectively and skillfully as possible.
Mm-hmm. So I would definitely divide that back into the nature and nurture.
Yeah.
We made the conscious decision, for example, to read to our kids a lot right away and encourage reading.
Mm-hmm.
We did even the neonatal things where you're reading to the baby inside the womb and getting them used to your voice. Playing music. I would put like headphones on Tracy's just pumping Mozart through there. But then, also we did things like we made sure that they did piano lessons because of what that does for your brain. And we said, look, once you get to the high school level, you can drop it if you want. 2 of my kids ended up wanting to be musicians, for life. We did a lot of things, teaching my kids how to play chess so that they have the capacity to look ahead, and those kind of things that we know mechanically make imprints on the brain. But I was also a very laissez-faire, independence promoting father. So I never said, this is what you're going to do. We didn't even give our kids curfews. I said, I trust you. This is your life. When you're 16 years old, let us know where you're going to be. But we always gave them unbelievable amounts of independence and freedom and trust so that they could feel the autonomy they needed to flourish intellectually and socially.
Yeah, so as you're talking, Joe, I'm just thinking about, okay, that's awesome. There are very few rules in this household. And yet, I know, because I know you pretty well and I know your kids, that even if the rules were unspoken, you did have expectations for your kids, but these expectations were created with a sense of safety and love in mind. Your kids all knew, when they came home, even without a curfew, it was out of respect, right? For you and Tracy as parents, and with the understanding that the manner in which you were raising them helped them to feel safe and trusted. Your home was a safe space for them.
And I think
a lot of kids are not growing up with that very balanced sense of, we have these expectations and there's this warmth also, and there will be consequences for your behavior when it's inappropriate as well.
Yeah, and I want to touch on two things you said there. One is the word expectations, because it is so devastatingly damaging for a parent to even passive-aggressively insert their expectations to their kids. So, even when it came to things like nutrition, like they would, a lot of people would think, oh, Joe owns the diet doc, so his kids are going to be made to eat nothing but broccoli and this. And it's like, no. We had little minor rules, like if you want dessert, you got to eat your vegetables first. That's pretty benign. But never, ever, ever was there talk about, you need to be healthy, you need to be fit, you need to do this. Zero whatsoever pressure like that. The same thing intellectually. If you don't want to go to school, you don't have to go to school. You can learn other ways. If you don't want to be a straight A student. That's, we have no expectations like that whatsoever. But I think what people often undervalue is the fact that kids will just do what they see you do.
Yes.
And so you have to be somebody that creates a role modeling experience without even making it parenting. If I want my kids to be generous, they need to see me being generous.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example. Here, this is something I just thought of. Last night, we went to the grocery pickup. Like we get our curbside delivery grocery, pouring down rain, just pouring down rain. This guy 2 parking spots over for me is out there without an umbrella. He's jumping around. He's trying not to get wet. And so I just dash out of my truck because I have this massive umbrella, and I go over to him and I hold the umbrella over him. And he's like, oh my gosh, dude, thanks. Totally. And then I look in his truck, and there's this little 3-year-old girl in a car seat, and she just looks at me and she goes, hi. Aww. And then she goes, Daddy, that's a nice man. And I thought, those are the things. You don't have to tell your kids to be kind. They just need to see you being kind
for them. Yeah. And perhaps expectations was the wrong word. You're providing structure in your household so that your kids begin to expect certain things from you. That's more, I think, appropriate. Yeah.
And all of these things, this is what's really cool, is they have a physical, genetic level impact. There's something we're just starting to understand. We've had this, like what we used to call like dark matter inside of cells, recombinant RNA, and now microRNA. And this is where we have the potential to change our own DNA. And when our brain is picking those things up, we have real change. We often make fun of Freudian concepts, when we talk about daddy issues, or you didn't get enough hugs as a kid or whatever. And
there are real consequences to this.
This is where your brain is developing.
Absolutely.
Your brain is becoming what it sees in your environment. So again, think of that little girl who just had this massive little dopamine flood that she saw somebody rush to her father's rescue and do something kind. There is physical brain change that will affect her personality if that's the kind of environment that she grows up in.
I just think, Joe, about all the attachment research showing that kids, and I'll use your kids as an example, who grow up in a secure attachment environment where they know what to expect. It's not a volatile environment or home environment. It's not like they're walking on eggshells and they never know which way to turn or which direction to go in, because they don't know if the parent's going to love them 1 second and hate them the next, or slap them and then wrap them in their arms. That's an insecure environment. And it absolutely does shape your brain and the level of trust you have in different situations, and especially in relationship. I have plenty of clients as adults who are still trying to navigate the consequences of growing up in an insecure household like that, because they don't know whether they can trust their partner or not. And if their partner's tone of voice sounds like this, they instantly feel like they're being rejected, and that wasn't the partner's intention at all. And it's all a lot brain-based.
And I love this. I mean, that just brings us full circle to how, if you want to have super kids, if you want to create these little genetic super babies, first of all, your physical health is paramount. That is the basis. I mean, we are biological entities, but then that growth never stops. Brains don't stop developing until you're at least 25 years old. And so the environment, just every single word is so critical.
Well, what is it? And this has changed over the course of even the last few years as they've done more and more research, but our kids, they're adolescents until they're 28. 28 years old. So
don't tell me that. I thought I was getting to the end.
You still got a ways to go, Joe. Keep modeling that awesome behavior. Yeah, and
Well,
so in adolescence, like my point to that is the brain is on fire, literally on fire, absorbing everything and pruning and shaping and clipping and yeah, it's that's why, teenagers and Joe, you can speak to this. Your kids were very different as teenagers than they were at any other age, and trying to find exploring more, probably getting a lot more social, doing things maybe they wouldn't necessarily otherwise, taking more risks, and it's all in an effort to figure out who they are. But brain-wise, there's a lot more activity going on there than at any other time.
absolutely. And that's why, Kori, I so appreciate your input into our company, our program owners, my life specifically. I've known you now for almost 12 years. And just what an important thing to focus on, guys. It is nature and it's nurture. It's biology and genetics and epigenetics, but it's also every single decision you make around your kids. And, a topic for another day, but your own lives, the kind of thoughts you have even change your own brain. So we'll talk about that maybe next time or in the near future. But thank you, Kori, and thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.